Hey, welcome back to Nick Fix Locks. Tonight I thought we would go over how to gut a lock and take different locks apart. It's a key component, especially as you're progressing through the belt ranking system. For green belt, you have to be able to disassemble and reassemble the lock in addition to picking it. And then for every belt after green, you're going to have to disassemble the lock to show that the pins are correct or factory, as well as orientation of the pins in some cases. So I've got a assortment of locks here that we can go over with how to gut them and take them apart, whether it be for post picking for belt request videos, or for just being able to take them apart to take a look at it as the insides to help you progressive pin it or learn it as we go through it. The first thing we're going to need is just a couple tools. You're going to need a screwdriver or some hex keys or Allen keys, um, especially on the padlocks. It's going to be one of the two of them, but some of your other kick or cylinder style locks will also require screws of some sort. We need a gutting wrench. This is from the Huck set to help get some of the clips off the back. We're going to need shims. Put that over here. Tweezers. These are reverse grip tweezers, and they also have alterations made to the end to help grip the pins better. We're going to need some core followers, several different kinds here. Um, these are 3D printed from 44 Delta, split on one end, solid on the other, in various sizes. I got these from Bare Bones. Let's get that. There we go. From Bare Bones, they are brass followers, and they are hollow. They're very nice. These are what I had for the longest time. I also have this follower. I don't know what's on that. There we go. This follower has a groove here in the bottom to go with the front loader for dimple locks, or really for Euro cylinders. But we'll go over that here shortly as well too. And then we have a front follower front loader that works in conjunction with all of these as well. But we'll go over those when we get to the dimples. I figured first thing we could take a look at here is the American 1100 lock. It's a common lock for green belt, and you're going to have to take it apart. So ideally you will have a key when gutting a lock, and we take a look down in there. It is a screw. I need a longer screwdriver. There we go. Just a Phillips head screwdriver. Get that broken over. That out. There we go. We'll take our body and set that aside. And we'll get our pinning tray out. Now, a lot of times, if you haven't taken these apart before, there's all kinds of grease in here from the factory. So maybe keep a paper towel on hand if you don't want to get that on your hands or clothes or anything. But there is a clip here on the back of it. I don't know how well you can see it, slightly different color, but it doesn't go completely around. There's enough room on here for this little notch here in our gut wrench to get on one side, and then if you have a smaller one, it'll push into it and you can lever your wrench to get that off. With these though, if you just kind of give them a little push, sometimes you can even use a flathead screwdriver. Get this. Now, the thing that I'll see a lot of people do that's never made any sense to me is they leave their key in, dog hair everywhere sticking to this grease, leave their key in as they're trying to take these clips off on the back. And all that's going to do is allow the lock to spin. And depending on how you're holding it or if you're not paying attention, they can fall out the bottom here. As you can see, the different colors for the different pins. So before you take your clip off, take the key out. There we go. We'll set that aside. Right, now that our clip's out, we're going to place our key back into the lock, grab our shim, go ahead and turn the lock a little bit, and we're going to feed our shim into the back here to have it between the core and the Bible so that those pins, get a thinner one, do not fall down into our grooves here on the back that clip was resting in. This one. There we go. Sometimes you have to kind of wiggle it and work it in there. All right, so then we're going to take a follower that is as close to the same size as our core as we have. Now on this one, where the back is split and we have it recessed here slightly, I like to have that part at the top on the Bible. And we're going to hold it so that our key pins will be facing upward. This is just my preference. And we're going to use our follower to push the core out of the lock. All right. So follower in there. We can take our key out, and then we'll dump our pins. If they'll come out. Let's put this in here. 2, 3, 5, go. 1, get out. There we go. 4. Get our shim out. Take our core, set that there. Now, on the 1100 locks, I don't know how well you can see this, that you have a little lip here. This is the front of the lock, and this is the back. But if you have a follower that is solid and split, knowing what end you pushed in will tell you front and back. All right, so we're going to use our tweezers and slowly push our follower back until we can see the first pin exposed. And then we're going to push it back with our tweezers resting down. Slowly let it rise up. Let off that spring tension so it doesn't shoot out. And then we will grab it, pull it straight up, drop it down. Now, what I like to do is when I place them in my pinning tray, I like to orient them as they would be in the lock. So this part was on the top and we pulled it out. That'll be what's touching the key pin. So that's how I like to lay it down in the tray. Do the same thing for pin 2. Pin 3. Now, for the back pins, I like to switch over to going from the other side. So 5. I want to come out. There we go. 5 and 4. Nope. And then we'll set this aside. And we can see our pins there. And if you want, you can dump your springs out, but you really don't need to. All right. Now, when reassembling the lock, what I like to do is I'll take my shim, if I can grab one, put that in the lock, push this through, and it's more useful to do this if you have springs that are sticking out of the Bible. But in this case, there aren't any, so not using a shim in this regard is fine and will not affect anything. Put that back in. So we will start here in the back. And remember that we have 5 pins, but it is drilled for 6. So we're going to go 3 holes back and start with 4. That there. Drop that. Now we'll go for 5. Get that. And we're using our tweezers to push the pin down as we slide the follower back over top of them. All right, so now we're going to go for pins 3, 2, 1 in that order. So we will grab pin 3. Go. We can get it. 3. And then I'm catching it with the follower so it doesn't shoot out. Push it down, slide the follower forward. Grab pin 2. Go. Shut down, slide our follower forward. And pin 3. Push that down, slide our follower forward. All right. Now, while we have it like this, we'll go ahead and insert our shim for when we put the core back in. If I can get it in there. There we go. Yep. So we'll set that down for there. And we'll reload our key pins into the lock. With 1, 2. And I recommend getting the reverse grip tweezers. It just makes things a little bit easier. You don't have to hold constant pressure on the tweezers to have a hold of the pins. And 5. There we go. All right. Now, slide those. You do not need the key to reassemble the lock. With your shim in place, the pins were not going to fall down into any of the recesses or pin stack chambers. But again, I'm going to put the extended part on top and push this into the lock. And as the core comes, it'll catch the shim and push that as well. We'll pull this out, and then we will rotate the core to get that locked. And we'll take our clip, put this back on. Now, some of these you can reapply by hand, and some you're going to need that gut wrench or something flat to really get that pushed in there. Okay. So we got that on, and you really don't want to use your key without that clip in place, because you then, when you go to withdraw the key, because everything's at the shear line, there's nothing to bind and keep the core held in place inside of the lock body, and you can pull it out, have stuff fly everywhere. But double check it, make sure it works, and then we'll reassemble the lock. Here, I'll take it, drop in our body, and our anti-drill plate, put our screw back in, tighten that back up. And sometimes they'll have a Loctite on these as well that can make it a pain to get these things screwed in. It doesn't help either if you have grease on your hands from taking the thing apart as well. Yep, that's good. Get that locked back up. There we go. Oh, we dropped a ball somehow. Okay, so let's take our key out. All right. This happens, take your key. You're going to need to keep the lock in an unlocked position. We're going to insert this. Come on. There we go. In an unlocked position. Rotate that over. Get that in there. There we go. Now it's locked. Good to go. Okay, now let's say you have a lock that you don't have a key for, that you want to gut to either see what the pins are so that you can make a key for it, or you're going to turn it into a lock for a key that you already have on hand that fits it. And what you're going to need in that case is a blank key for that lock. This is a random kick cylinder that I grabbed out of my bin, and I know it's a 6-pin, so it takes an SC4 key. So I have an SC4 blank, fits right in there, doesn't do anything. First thing we're going to do though is we need to remove this clip on the back. That off. Go. Go insert our blank, and we need a shim. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to withdraw the key as we feed the shim into the lock. And what'll happen, because of the angle here, as the pin slides down that slowly, eventually it will get to a point, some point between a 0 cut and a 9 cut that is at the shear line, and our shim will be able to go past that pin. So we withdraw the pin, see if we can push the shim in. Pull it out a little bit more, test the pin, and we just keep doing this until we can get that shim to go. And we just repeat this on each pin of the lock. There we go. I'm only pulling the key out very slightly. There we go. And sometimes you may have to push the key back in if you feel as though it's been pulled out too far and that you are completely off of the pin. There we go. So now sometimes you can go on eBay and you'll find locks that don't come with keys. And this is as long as it's not a restricted key, you should be able to find a blank for it somewhere. And this is a method you can use to get it open. Go. Go. There we go. And once we have our shim all the way in, you can see that that core will rotate freely. And we can take our follower, slide that in, and gut the lock just like any other. And then when we put it back together, same as before, just backwards. We're going to slide our core in, turn core, get the click, know it's locked, and then we can reapply our clip back to the back. And there we go. Had to gut it without an actual key. So the next one we have here is just another kick style cylinder, but they have a screw-on cap in the back with a pin. So they make tools. Sparrows has one that it's basically a 3D printed or resin core follower, but the end is designed to fit inside of here with the grooves that are cut in it, to depress that pin to allow the cap to get screwed off without any issue. But you can just depress the cap with anything, or just press the pin with anything and unscrew the cap. It's off. Take your pen out. There's a spring. Some of these will be hollow on the end. And then we got the lock as normal. And then turn it. We'll insert our shim. Use our follower. Take that out. And then when we put it back together, a key out. We're going to put our spring down. Then our pin. Take our cap. You should be able to start threading the cap, and then it'll catch on the pin and stop you from tightening it any further. And that's when you just depress the pin. Use a pick, You can use your tweezers, really anything, as long as it'll depress the pin and hold it down. And then we're just going to screw it back on. Oh, helps if we tighten this the correct direction. Now what I like to do is to get that as tight as it'll go, and I'll back it up 1 or 2 notches from where that falls in there. So I don't want it too tight to inhibit the core from turning or having friction in it. Come on. There we go. Yep. But I don't want it too loose to where the core is going to move around and possibly pull out or have something fall into an anti-drill hole or something to brick the lock either. So, but yeah, so another common type of kick you'll come across with this instead of a clip in the back. The next thing we'll look at, it's another kick. Now this is a Goal Z, and this lock, with the pins and everything in it, it's important to show orientation of the pins as well as the cups in it. So for this type of lock, you can do 1 of 2 things. You can unscrew the back, put your key in, turn it, shim it, pull it out with a follower, just like you normally would, show everything that way. Or this cap here on the top, which isn't present on all locks. You can see on this one, it has a crimped in place bar. That's going to be a pain to get out. Let's see here. Same thing here on this one. So you can't do it on every lock, but some locks will have this present. So what you do, where's my, there they are. I don't want to use those tweezers. Maybe this thing is push this forward or backwards, whichever. And there are, I don't know how well this shows up, 2 little feet that stick out here, and we're going to bend those upwards. There we go. And what that'll do is it'll allow us to slide this off. Oh, no, they gotta go higher. Still too low. There we go. A little bit more. There we go. And we can expose all of the pin chambers in it. Now you do have to be mindful and careful with this because the springs are the first thing on top and they will shoot out. So I'll slide it, keep my thumb over top, slowly let off pressure. There's our pin, or our spring, so we'll go ahead and grab that. Let's see, we're at the front of the lock. This is 1. Good. Then we can take our tweezers down in there. Can't remember if these have it or not. Can't remember if these are cupped. Okay, they are cupped. Oh, cool. So we can get that out near the top here. And then if we insert our tweezers, my other tweezers, whatever. But important to show the orientation of these, which that one we did not show, but we'll get it with the next one. That, there's our spring, put that. Let's go ahead and get our key pin out here in chamber 1. Alright, go on to 2. Yep. And our key pin. And we'll just keep going through the lock like this. Spring, driver, key pin. There it is. Spring, driver, key pin. Now I'm doing this kind of fast, but normally you would want to go slower about this just to show the orientation of your driver pins in the lock in order for it to count for black belt. This is a black belt lock. Go. Oh, see, and then that one, the spring stuck in it. So when I pulled the spring out, so did the driver. We'll go ahead and take it off fully. There it is. There, and then once we have all of the pins removed, then we can take the back off, remove the core, and show any counter milling or alterations that have been made to it. And we'll tell you on this as well as the goal P, you have 2 ball bearings inside that keep the core stable and in the right position to allow the driver pins to interact with the key pins in a straight line so that the key will work smoothly. So with those detents, there's one here and one here. You just have to be mindful of that as we're pulling it out. I'm not going to use a follower since all of the pins have already been removed from the lock. I'm going to keep my fingers on the sides to catch those as they come out. We'll drop one ball bearing and the other, and 2 springs. And then we can show the core. See the over milling. There is counter milling in there. And sometimes it's useful to take a pick so that you can show that that is present. And then show the core. Now when putting it back together, the detents are going to be more at the front of the lock, so that'll tell you as your front face and rear face of the lock for when you reassemble it. All right, I'll put that back together here in a little bit. That there and that there. And we'll grab this one. And then last thing, we'll talk about showing the orientation of the drivers and a lock that you can't pull them from the top end. So on this one, we're going to take off our rear plate. Come on. Now this particular lock has a sidebar in it, so that is something to be mindful of when we pull the core as well. There we go. So we'll get our shim. We should probably get a key. That might be useful. Key in, we'll turn it. Let's see. Let's go that way. Yeah, let's go like that. Good. Okay. And we will find the best follower. This one. There we go. And as we're pulling it, there's our sidebar. We're going to put our finger on that. All right. Now, we're going to take our sidebar, set that there. Let's put this there. We'll go ahead and grab those two springs. Go. That there. Hold of it. That there. Good. And we will pull our key. Now with this particular lock, there we go. Your side pins here, they're all identical or the same. So what order they go in does not matter. All that matters is the cut of the key and the orientation of your sidebar in the lock. So just go ahead and pull these out. And our key pins, we'll set those here. Those two. That was one. 3, 4. That one had a wafer. 5 and 6. Get those turned around. Yep. All right. Now, let's get the shim out and let's pull the pins from the lock. So we want to make sure that the camera can see the pins start to come out and be exposed. So we're gonna slowly expose it, let it raise up, push our follower back forward to catch it. Shut out, don't do that. Let's go to the next one. We're going to grab it, lift it straight up, pull out, and then we can show to the camera the orientation of that pin. There, Jen. Set that one down. Go for number 3. Grab it, lift straight out. Show our orientation, drop it down. We'll just continue that for all the pins here in the lock. Let's get number 4. And then 4, 5, and 6, we'll grab them from the back. 6. Push it. And if you want, if you can get the light and everything to show it, you could show the pin sticking out there in the lock as well. 6. Let's go for 5. So I think it's best to just get into the habit of showing the pins as you're gutting now for orientation, just to get it ingrained as a habit for as you go into the higher belts and try to earn those. But this is how I gut locks. Trays like this are really useful for locks that have multi-directional pins, or if you want to show the sidebar, then you could have your key pins and drivers here separate. Goes in there like that. There you go. But for multi-directional locks, such as this gold GP, we got a West 917, gold D9, few others that I can't think of. Those are just the ones I have. Gold V18, Gold Grand V, whatever. So you could have labeled, top, right, left, right, top, left, top, right, however you want to go about it. But then you can have them orientated as such on your tray to reflect how they are in the lock. Makes it a little bit easier when putting the lock back together too, if you know all of these are your right side pins, left side pins, and top side pins. if you can, I highly encourage you to try to buy your high pin count dimple locks in a kick format so that you can take those caps off to gut it easier rather than trying to use a follower to deal with the inside of the lock as they're going in a spiral pattern almost. It's just way easier if it's a kick. So, but hope this was helpful. Hope you got a lock or in the green belt because you got to take it apart and put it back together. And then in the next video, we'll talk about how to make challenge locks or my approach to making challenge locks. Everything from making the pins to altering the cores, looking at the keys, different things like that. So that all of the videos we've had, including the challenge lock video, should be able to get you up to a blue belt in theory. And then I think after that, we'll cover dimple locks and other mechanisms that are in some of the higher, more difficult locks. But hope this was helpful. Like, subscribe, comment. Sound like Lock Junkie. Yeah, let's do that. Like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. I don't know. Give a shout out to Lock Junkie. New sticker from DIY DM and the unlocked sticker, which is pretty tight. Yeah, so I guess that's all I got for tonight. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.